Hey y'all, I'm in the kitchen today and I'm going to be making bone broth or beef stock, whichever you want to call it. There's going to be people asking what is the difference, and usually the difference is, let's take for example when you boil a chicken, because you're going to make say chicken and rice or chicken and dumplings, and you have the meat still on the bone and you're getting all of the juices from the meat. That's typically a broth. And when you boil just say a turkey carcass or a chicken carcass or beef bones, that's usually called stock. So that's the difference. Now stock usually has a more gelatinous texture to it, I guess we'll call it, because you're getting from the marrow of the bones and the cartilage from the bones. But anyway, both can be used interchangeably, so you can call this beef broth, beef stock, whatever you want to call it. And you do it by roasting your bones, and then you're going to put them in a crock pot or a pot on the stove for at least 24 hours. So let's get started on making this beef stock. So here are my bones. They're frozen, which is not a problem. I have them in a pan. This just happens to be a Pampered Chef pan, and I'm going to sprinkle these with salt and then roast these in the oven for about an hour. Alrighty, it's been 30 minutes. Now I'm going to take them out and flip them over. Just going to flip them all over. As you can see, some of the juices are starting to come out already. And we're going to collect those juices as well and put those in the crock pot. For the record, this was 5 pounds of beef bones. Some butchers call them soup bones. So if you go into the butcher and ask for beef bones, some of them kind of look at you like you're crazy. But they'll know you want beef soup bones if you're trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle salt on this side of them. If you want your broth salt free, then you can skip this step. It's not absolutely necessary. Now I'm going to put them back in the oven. Set my timer for another 30 minutes. And when that's done, then we're going to get these in the crock pot. Alright, they are out of the oven and ready to go into the crock pot. Just going to stick them in the bottom here. If you look at this, you'll see that this is just turned. This is going to come out in your broth. It's the gelatin stuff that's going to be in your broth or your stock, whatever you want to call it. You can dig it out if you want, but it should come out while you're cooking them. Alright, now I'm going to pour the juice from the pan I cooked them on, roasted them on. I'm going to scrape all this off and put this in the pan as well. You don't want to lose anything. We're using it all. Alright, that's good enough. Now we are going to cover this with water up to the top. While I'm filling that up with my pitcher of water, I'm going to stick 2 bay leaves in here. Just 2 regular bay leaves. Hot. Put that water in there. push that down and yeah, that'll be good. So it's all covered. I have a little more room. I'm finished putting it in there. So next you're going to put some vinegar in here, or some lemon, some sort of an acid. It's to help pull everything out of these bones. So I don't have any apple cider vinegar. I'm out, so I'm going to use an 1/8 cup of regular white vinegar. If you're going to use apple cider vinegar, use a 1/4 cup. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to turn this on high for 1 hour. Once it's been on high for 1 hour, then I'm going to go ahead and turn it down to low for the next 23 hours. But for now, I'm going to put it on high to get it up to a temperature that I want, which is about, you know, the 180 range. So I'll be back in a little while, in about an hour, and we'll check on this stock. Okay, it has been an hour, and now I'm going to turn it down to low. And I will be back in 23 hours. All I'm going to do is make sure that my water stays above my bones. So it's the next day. Been about 14 hours. And see all that meat? It has just fallen off of the bone. I'm trying to grab a bone. So see? We're left with nothing but bones. There's a bone. And we're just going to keep cooking it. There's a bone. So we'll put the lid back on it and let it keep going. Alright, now I have cut up a big onion. I did not take the outside peel off, and I'm just going to be putting this in here, peel and all. And I'm out of celery, so I'm going to stop and pick some up on my way home, and then I'll be adding some of that in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my onions in here and let them start simmering. Oops, I forgot some of my peels. And that'll give your beef broth a darker brown color. You can see it's already kind of a brown color, but I'll be straining this and a lot of those meat pieces will come out. We want a darker brown color, so got to get those onions in there. So I'll be back after work. All right, I made it home from work. Got some celery. Now I have washed it, and I'm just going to put all the celery leaves and all in here. And this will continue to cook until I get home from work tomorrow and can strain it and get it canned. Let's see what it looks like. A close up. The meat will also be put to use. Nothing is going to be wasted. Alright, so let this crock pot keep doing its thing. Okay, it's been 48 hours and all of the veggies are cooked down, and now I need to strain it through a colander to get all of the large chunks out of here. Alright, so first I'm going to strain it through this bigger colander. I'm doing this in the sink so I don't burn myself. Yes, it's fogging up my camera. this out. Now I'm going to strain this through a smaller colander, which is this one. Hopefully this bowl is big enough. And it was. And what's left, I'm going to can. Some people will put this through cheesecloth or like my nut bag I have, but this is good enough for me. Give it a little stir. Push it down, get as much of the juices out as I can. All right, now let's get this into some sterilized jars. As for all of the meat and the vegetables that are left over, I have them in a Tupperware container, and I'm going to put those in the fridge for tomorrow for a different recipe. All right, it's time to get the broth into the jars. The jars are hot. They just came out of the water. Broth is also hot. I'm going to start on this one instead. Start ladling it into jars, leaving a 1-inch headspace. I'm going to get all of these jars filled and then I'll be back. Alright, now let's clean the rims and get our lids on. This is very greasy, so you need to make sure that you clean them real good. I'm going to do mine twice just to make sure. Some people will let their broth cool before they jar it so that they can get off any of the fat. I do not do that. I want it fat and all. If you're wondering what this bone broth is good for, it's good for when you're sick to drink some. It's good for gravy. It's good in soups, good with pasta. There's a lot of uses for it. Google what is beef broth or beef stock good for, or what recipes, beef stock, beef broth recipes, and you'll find a lot of them. All right, let's get the lids on. Now the next part I'm going to do is water bath these for 3 hours. Yes, you heard me right. I'm going to water bath them. That is not recommended in your ball book. They say to pressure can it, and if you want to pressure can it, that's fine. The Amish, the Europeans, and many of us Americans do not follow that recommendation, so that's up to you. I'm going to do these finger tight and then get these in the canner and water bath for 3 hours. Here's the color. See how dark it is? Get these in the canner and get my timer started. There we go. It has water over the top of the lids, and it will sit here and water bath for 3 hours at a rolling boil. And if you're wondering how I keep my water levels up for 3 hours, I use my Keurig. Add some water and let it keep on boiling. I have 2 more hours to go. All right, it has been 3 hours. I'm gonna let them sit here and cool off for a minute, and then I will take them out of the canner. You can see that they are still boiling after I took them out of the canner. That's how hot they are. And here it is the next day. You see the sediment on the bottom, fat layer at the top. Now, if your goal is to make a clearer broth, because you're gonna be making like a consommé, then you'll want to skim the fat off before you can it. You can run it through some cheesecloth several times to get it clear, but we're going for an immunity booster here. This is something that I'll pull out when someone's sick, or you know, we're feeling kind of down this winter time. So that's how you make beef bone broth. There's many ways to do it, and none of them are really wrong. This is my way to do my immunity boosting bone broth. So thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're interested in learning more about how you can water bath things that a lot of Americans will tell you have to be pressure canned, I'll put a link in the description below to an Amish cookbook that I recommend, because you can pretty much water bath everything safely. I don't care what the Karens say. You can, but there are some rules to follow. So check out that description below if you're interested in that book.